What gets a film deleted from video sharing platforms? What are the criteria for censoring a film production? Well, from studying engineering at the age of 16 to becoming a documentary filmmaker, today's guest will talk about his experience in the film industry and getting to work with film giants such as Oliver Stone. This is Sob, and I'm your host, Hassan Tavakoli. Igor Lopatonok was born in Ukraine in 1968. He's a film producer who is well known for his game-changing colorization and 3D conversion work in the United States and in Europe. He's a pioneer in cutting-edge technologies to restore, colorize and repurpose a number of famous Soviet Union classic movies. Igor Lopatonok, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us more about yourself. Where do you come from?
So I'm a filmmaker from Los Angeles, but I was born in Soviet Union 1968, studied rocket science in the university, moved to Moscow, studied international finances, moved back to Ukraine, make a big business endeavor. After that, work in a business and in government. In 2005, start making movies because that was proceeded to be my passion. Start proceeding to be a storyteller. And 2008, moved to Los Angeles. And from this time, live and working in Los Angeles. But I position myself as the citizen of the world. I loved the country when I was born. Soviet Union is ceased to exist. I love Ukraine when I spent the 40 years of my life, but it is not Ukraine as I love it anymore. I love United States as a people, and I hate it as a government because they're doing such a lot of mistakes, such a lot of damage. So I try to keep in my films, try to keep government accountable. And this is leading me, my career in documentary business. That's how I met Oliver Stone in 2013 and make a film, my first directorial debut, Ukraine on Fire. What actually was quite successful because we was filming during the coup in Kiev in 2013, 2014. We keep working on the film until 2016 when we released it with a big success. Premiere was happened on a Taormina Film Festival in Sicily. And from this time, the movie worked pretty well. We counting our audience, now it's more than 500 million around the world, more than 40 languages translated, not by us, but by people who want to know what's happening in Ukraine 2014. And what position of United States and State Department and the Bidens and Victoria Nuland, all the troublemakers. So we are giving to our audience alternative version of mainstream media storytelling, let's say narrative. And it's so different. So immediately was accusing us to be a Russian agent or Russian propaganda outlet. I did overall 4 films on Ukraine.
And of course, we'll get to those films and go into detail.
I'm not gonna stop until they will keep killing my fellow Ukrainians and fellow compatriots Russians, because this conflict was not originated in Ukraine. That conflict was brought to Ukraine because somebody on the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., they want to use Ukraine as a proxy against Russia. So, and beside of that, I do also other documentaries and the feature films and even animation. So I accomplished 53 projects. I worked with big names such as Luc Besson, Andrei Konchalovsky, but my heart belonged to my teacher, to Oliver Stone, the greatest alive director and a dramatist in the United States and entire world.
What was your very first film that you produced and made?
My very first film was a very low-budget TV series back in Ukraine.
What was it about?
It was some silly story about lawyer in 1913 in Imperial Russia. Kind of detective.
Indeed. So, as you said, one of the exciting parts of making documentaries was working with Oliver Stone. And of course, most of your cinematography is revolving around Ukraine. First of all, tell us more about your partnership with Oliver Stone. How is your work relationship with him?
Yeah, we're partners, we're friends. He's my teacher, I'm his student. We currently working on one project that I cannot disclose because, we're working in such a political charged documentaries. What they're saying something about them, they will be under attack. He just was in Cannes presenting his latest, what I was not involved, but documentary about President of Brazil, Lula da Silva. And we did with him 4 projects. He's a great guy, amazing master of drama, writer, thinker, philosopher, and a director. He pushed me to direct because when we just met, I was asking him to be my executive producer, but I was also looking for director. We go to all big names, Errol Morris, other names. And finally, Oliver tell me, why, Igor, why you not going to direct the film? Said, I'm not a film director, but I studied directing. I studied 8 years in the books and on a set. I was so afraid, he pushed me, and I directed this.
And you finally took the leap.
Yeah, and proceeding from be producer to be director, it's a different goals. When you're producer, you want to make a product on budget and on time. When you're director, you don't care about budget and the time. You care about quality of your storytelling. So this is a inner conflict. Usually I'm both. I'm producer of my films and director of my films. But telling the story, this is a different thing than organizing production. Telling the story, that's when you taking care about emotion of your audience, and you need to know your audience very well to ignite this emotion, to squeeze that emotion from their hearts. And after that, you can sell them facts. So this is how Ukrainian Fire make very good movie, because Oliver's hand on my shoulder, and that hand was very heavy. I presented to him after 6 months of our editorial effort to cut the footage what we film. I presented him copy. He threw it away. He said, it's a trash can, and throw it in trash can. He said, you tomorrow in the editorial room. And we sit together with him, and he show for the 4 hours, we cut 30 minutes, what is Ukrainian Fire, as all entire world know this now. So this is a way of teaching, because if you see your student doing something wrong, you're showing to him how to make it right. Actually, what was in this trash can things, I tried to replicate the storytelling like a mosaic style of Quentin Tarantino, just coming to the very end with understanding what's happened in the very beginning. And it was so complicated because Ukraine was so little known in the Western audience. So he make it linear, make it much more simpler, and it's worked pretty well. This is a quality of the master. And I recommend to young generation of filmmakers, whom I, by the way, met here, amazing young filmmakers, just to work on the films and try to find a master, try to find a teacher who can teach them through this heavy hand on the shoulder, positioning them in the right direction and telling them what to do and what to avoid. Because books, sorry, but will give you nothing.
Practical experiences.
Yes, films can
Indeed,
do
yeah.
everything.
Well, as I was saying, most of your cinematography revolves around Ukraine. 3 films, The Everlasting Present, Ukraine, 30 Years of Independence, which was made in 2021, Revealing Ukraine, 2019, and Ukraine on Fire in 2016. First of all, what was the main reason for such a focus on Ukraine? What was it about Ukraine that really, got you into filmmaking?
Yeah. First of all, it's 4 of them. 2014 was the Maidan massacre. That was the first prequel for Ukrainian Fire. Ukrainian Fire, revealing Ukraine, everlasting present. 4, and I believe I can make
the fifth one.
Because I know Ukraine from inside. And I was living in Ukraine until I moved to the United States. I was born in Soviet Union and suddenly I'm Ukrainian, 1991. Okay, so let's build the country. I work, I pay my taxes, I do my business, I work for government, I try to make the country good. 2008, thanks God, I moved to the United States because 2014, Ukraine was completely wrecked. Wrecked by whom? That was my question, because I know entire Ukrainian politicum, very close, know big business, the very big names, biggest name in business in Ukraine. I know them personally. And I know, because I work for government, how government work in Ukraine. And I know the relationship of Ukraine with Russia and the attempt to establish the relationship with a metropole, new metropole in the United States. So knowing all of this and watching the narrative of mainstream media, or saying complete from the screens, I can't stand it. So I try to make something to confront narrative of mainstream media about Ukraine, about President Yanukovych, about Vladimir Putin, about who did this coup in Ukraine, how they killed the people on the streets of Kiev, how they presented it as a government killed the people, and who teach them it's all this technology, and who financed them, the people like Soros or other NGO from abroad, pumping the money in this revolution. What reason? They don't care about Ukrainians. They don't care about anyone who is the population of the country when they come into the country. They care only about their geopolitical strategic goals to ignite the tension, to rise the tension, and to start the war. Why? Because this is empire of chaos. This is how they operate. They benefiting from producing of arms in huge amount and selling that arms to their own government, not to foreign governments. So biggest sale from United States military-industrial complex go to American government. And who paying for that? Americans, taxpayers. I believe this is something what need to be changed, because that's not benefiting to United States people. That's benefiting only to the pockets of military-industrial complex and their happiness manager servant, who is a media. And there's all media completely, with very, very little exclusion, completely work for that people of military-industrial complex and intelligence community. So that subject find the audience with listening, and we're trying to, because of Oliver Stone, we're trying to fly a little bit bigger. We're trying to show the bigger picture. We start with very, very specific and concrete actions on the street, but after that we go higher. We meet. I was privileged to interview with Oliver first President Yanukovych, after that President Putin, and to understand the story from the point of view of people who was taking decisions, sometimes very hard decisions. But this is the first account. This is a very insightful account that's still fresh. Still fresh. It's interesting. When Mr. Putin was telling Oliver Stone why NATO is so aggressive and why United States have such a stand against Russia, he was mentioning Iran, because he said, you know what, sometime I'm trying to be as much as close I can be, exact quote in the film, sometime I think that they need to maintain the discipline inside of the Atlantic Alliance, because, and Russia sweetened very well because Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, something like that. So Iran not scary enough for the entire West. They need a bigger villain. They need somebody big and very aggressive and bad looking, and they present in Russia like that. Oh, they're doing this with Iran, of course. This is why we're here, because, this is such a lot of lies flying in the American mass media about how the life arranged in Iran, what is Iranian society is, what is the goal of the government of Iran, who is the leaders of Iran, what the regular people on the streets want. You cannot imagine. I'm not going to repeat it for the Iranians know how to find this all, the avalanche of lies. Even the last 2 days, what was a tragedy, and it was really tragic, and people was mourning and feeling the sadness of what's happening with the President Raisi and his colleague in the helicopter crash. The entire society of that so-called liberals, they celebrating this because they think, and then of course it's with Israel together, they celebrating this like achievement. What kind of achievement it is? So the people is dancing when other people have a mourning time. This is how bad the moral standards of this media.
Thank you, Igor. And you're watching SOB. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned.
Mr. Medvedev.
Yes. Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm Oliver Stone.
Nice to meet you.
Oksana.
Hello.
And this interest in Ukraine. Why are you interested in Ukraine at all? Where is Ukraine? And where is America? Russia, big countries, big politics. And suddenly Ukraine?
Because I care about war and peace, and I'm a citizen of the world. I was in Vietnam War. I don't want to see my country go down this militaristic path. I knew nothing about Ukraine until I interviewed Mr. Putin. And I learned a lot about Ukraine, and I worked on Ukraine on Fire.
Okay, Igor, you made the documentary Ukraine on Fire. Let's first of all take a sneak peek at this documentary. Let's watch it together.
In 2014, a bloody revolution hit Ukraine.
The demonstrations went from being relatively peaceful political protests to being increasingly violent.
Revolution is always spontaneous. Or is it?
Технологии, которые применялись в тот период времени, они были заранее спланированы.
The former Ukrainian president recalls the events of 2014 and those who took part.
We've invested over $5 billion to assist Ukraine in these and other goals that will ensure a secure and prosperous and democratic Ukraine.
And of course, it got deleted from YouTube and Vimeo. Why do you think it was taken down?
So first of all, we released the movie in 2016. We released it on a film festival, Taormina in Sicily. We got a Grand Prix award for the best documentary. After that, we was distributed everywhere in the world. We was on television in France, Canada, United States, Middle East, everywhere. And on all platforms, like Amazon, Apple, iTunes. And 2022, when President Putin make a hard decision to stop that growing of anti-Russia on the border and prepping that people to attack the Russia and to organize that limited military incursion inside of Ukraine to demilitarize Russia and to clean that Nazi scum what was growing under the financing, of course, from abroad. So suddenly my film was completely opposite of all narrative in mainstream media and go so popular. So we was a #1 on Apple in documentary category, #1 on iTunes, #2 on Amazon for the 3 months in a row. And all our DVD and Blu-rays were sold out. So decided to stop it. Ukrainian government start complaining about our film to the big tech. Venmo is a very liberal outlet. They cut to YouTube. YouTube deleted our film. We fight back. We organized campaign together with Oliver. Oliver's pissed because the movie was safely screening for the 6 years. Suddenly, there's something changed? No, it's wrong. We cut to the France. France arranged a wave of. We immediately re-released the film on a Rumble. It's got the 3 million views in a few days, and 6 million after that in 1 month. But YouTube back up. They decide to restore the film, but they double censor it. So you need to have an account on YouTube, and you need to agree to you want to see the scene of violence. Because they screening in other films much more violent than ours on the same subject, but pro mainstream media narrative without any restriction. So they shadow ban us, they delete Venmo, they delete Apple, they delete iTunes. Amazon still hold. And other outlets, we, by the way, are distributing our Ukrainian Fire on 170 platforms around the world. So, and I give up my copyright for the film, because I own the rights for the film. I give it to the public audience, because I want the people to see the truth. And they start, it was downloaded in 2,500 copies from the Vimeo master copy, and people start publishing it everywhere. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, Odyssey, all existed platforms was filled. So it was no point of more to delete the film from YouTube because it was 2,000 different copies available.
It was already circulating around
So
the
we
world.
won the game. Again, that censorship. We won the game because we was, first of all, united. Second, we was smart. We outsmart them, and we don't care about this money because, first of all, my distributor never pay me any dime. There was a crook company called Cinema Libre. They take all my proceeds from Ukrainian Fire, get nothing. I get something from sales, what we arrange ourselves, but nothing from distributor. And second, I believe that's ability to people to see the truth and to have access to the information that can change their mind. I have a lot of letters, thousands of letters from around the world about Ukraine Fire, when the people saying, your film changed my mind, changed my vision of Ukrainian conflict 180 degrees. We specialized on a regime change in operations. This is why I'm very interested in everything what's happening in Iran. This is why I'm very, very interested to keep going with that expertise of deconstructing the attempts of regime change around the world, to present it to the audience, to present it to the people who was living inside, and from inside, they see the picture completely different. Because from inside, this is a bloody killers who is oppressing their freedom, they limiting their, but from outside, this look like a complete brainwashing operation, informational influence operation going on. And people, who especially youth, who don't develop yet critical thinking skills, they can be consumed by that narrative. And this is very dangerous. This is why the biggest battle is not on a battlefield when soldiers killing the bodies, but the biggest battle here in front of social media monitors and accounts of iPhones or the Androids and other and TV monitors, the battle for the mind.
Indeed. What do Ukrainians say about your film?
Oh, they watch it in a huge amount. The first year, we was a #1 popular film on YouTube in Ukraine. Yeah. So that film was immediately banned, very heavily criticized by the government, calling me Russian agent, Russian propagandist, blah, blah, blah. But people was interested, and they watched the film.
And this is Sob. We'll be back after this short break. Stay tuned.
We are giving this award to Revealing Ukraine, diretto da Igor Lopatonok.
German Hollywood. I'm very honored to work with Bob in this movie. And thank you, Julie, thank you, Beverly Hills Film Festival, for such recognition. And yes, it was very different. It's a masterpiece, it's art. It's no more than like commercial documentary, just for, it's for art. And I think everything what Bob do, I do just producing things. I care about footage, I care about restoration, I care about how to do this footage contemporary, but it's not about movie, it's not about storytelling. Storytelling is a responsibility, and I want to say thank you.
How authentic and accurate has the Russia-Ukraine war been reported and portrayed in Western media?
Oh, it's completely not authentic. It's complete false narrative. Because the reporting of this war is not reporting at all. This is informational war ongoing in the media against the target. And target, it's Russia. So they're not targeting Ukrainians anymore because they already submitted. Ukrainians already working on the side. But you know, how many Ukrainians left? When Ukraine proceeded to be independent, it was 55 million people living in that country. When I left the country, it was already 43 million. After the war started, and after all this mass exodus of people, the Ukraine is left like 19 million people. This is the biggest migration process in the world, especially number one in Europe. And why that's happening? Because people who understand, somebody maybe who watch my film and who see what's happening on the streets, they decide to walk by the legs. They walk away. They leave Ukraine. Level of immigration in Ukraine during this regime, Poroshenko and Zelensky, was 1 million a year. Nobody's saying the word about this in the West. Nobody's saying anything about that. They praising Ukrainians want to have a democracy. What kind of democracy? Because they seize the TV channels of opposition, they jail the opposition leader, they completely prohibit freedom of speech, they prohibit freedom of gathering, and they ban political parties. So what kind of democracy they build? That's a dictatorship, complete dictatorship under one man, whom I know personally, Mr. Zelensky, who believe he is stronger than Putin, and it's complete joke. Because Putin standing for his people, for interest of Russians, and Zelensky serving the people in Washington. We see the difference. So one man trying to prevent losses of his population, his fellow Russian citizens. Another one don't care how much people he gonna kill. His own citizens. He completely abandoned his duty of president. He's not belong to these people. He's not their leader. He's an electoral mistake. People fought for him to stop the war. He ignited a bigger war. This is how bad Zelensky is. And the Western media, he is a candle of freedom of entire world. Practically bigger than Biden. This is a big danger here, because when people start spilling out propaganda, after that, the people consuming and digesting that propaganda, after that, politicians start believing propaganda and make their decision in politics based not on real facts, but on propaganda, what their own government and all intelligence community produced. This is a loop, you know? And that's very dangerous loop. If you remember that film, Wag the Dog, actually, even this film was penetrated by CIA in attempt to whitewash, to make it, you know, not so critical. But Wag the Dog, this is the situation in Ukraine. For most part of American, that was like that. But last year, and last 2 years, they start more and more understanding. Not the government, of course. Government ready to promote the lie, knowing that this is a lie. But for real people, real Americans, who have nothing to do with Ukraine, They live in 10,000 kilometers abroad. They have no common border. They have no relatives. They said, this is a business of Ukrainians. Why we are there? Why we spending $200 billion promoting the war? Because this is no way to extinguish a fire if you throw in the gas into the fire. So this is why our film is such a demand, and around the world, especially in the United States as well.
Okay, Igor, as an experienced director and producer in the film industry, give us an insider's perspective on the underlying politics in film production, especially in studios like Hollywood. How do they operate?
Oh, the Hollywood, mostly studio in Hollywood operate as a distribution and marketing outlets only. So they're not filming, they're not producing films. That's independent production producing films, and after that, studio picking up the film or they financing the film from the beginning.
But who governs the politics?
Who governs the politics? That's a very good question, because the soft censoring or maintaining the grip on the industry arranged not in a straight ahead way, but through that supporting of and controlling the scripts. Because script, it is a bone of every film. So it's a very good book what Oliver gave me to read, National Security Cinema. How the Pentagon and the CIA influence in Hollywood. Because, you know, people actually, they value their freedom. They don't want to work openly for the government. They want to express their own vision. How to make them work for the government? Surround them with conditions. When they're working for the government and obeying the government regulation, they're receiving some incentives. So, for example, the good film, Maverick 2, is Tom Cruise about the pilot. Actually, they try to present Iran as a country, but they never named this Iran. He used the military of United States equipment, big one, the carriers, planes, very expensive. Overall budget of film was around 300 million. But on top of that, they use for free 200 million of equipment. So if I go and rent this equipment from the military, I'm gonna pay 200 millions. And production pay nothing, because the Pentagon have a right to look into the script and to make little changes. Little, the evil all the time hiding in the details. So this is how it's working one way. Another way, it's a financing, because that's only 5 legacy studios left, like a Disney leading the pack. Paramount just was sold recently. Sony, Fox was sold before to Disney, and this is also the Lionsgate, Mini Major, and the Warner Brothers. So this is legacy studio, and a new way of studios, contemporary one, is Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and HBO. So this mostly doing for streaming service. Legacy films, it is already in the legacy. That's passed away. Now every big money sitting in a production of TV series. Let's look closely on Netflix. When President Obama was leaving his office in 2016 and Donald Trump taking over, right after that, Susan Rice, who was a National Security Counsel in the Obama administration, this is a very high position because the CIA, FBI, DAA, all reporting to them, DHS. So she was supervising all entire the machine of law enforcement of this police state of United States. So she was proceeding to be member of the board of the Netflix. And from this, Obama family controlled the Netflix. After that, they established a small production. They start making films. And Michelle Obama, for example, got the huge money for being producer on his own TV series about her becoming. There's nobody interested in this story. Everybody hates this story, but they paid them $50 million to be executive producer of series when she do nothing. This is how they milking back their money. So there's entire corruption of this situation, because the biggest outlet, what is on a level of capitalization bigger than Disney, now belongs to Obama family. And Obama family, it is not only Obama, this is entire the neoliberal gang. There's a Hillary Clinton, others involved. So this is how the media controlled and the film business controlled. So Hollywood is just a place in Los Angeles when they hanging out together. And I need to say I'm not Hollywood. I never was Hollywood. I off Hollywood as well as my teacher is off Hollywood. We just live in this place because of weather and because there's a lot of friends and people who work in industry, in film industry, living close by. We're practically not filming in Los Angeles. We film in abroad. We film in different states. We film in different countries, different continents. But we stay in there, and only one thing was holding me to be live in Los Angeles. This is proximity to my teacher, because I need to take care about him, and I still studying under his head.
What are the challenges of film production nowadays that are lesser known to the people who want to enter this business?
Actually, it's a very informal way of doing business when you're doing the films, because nobody is telling you how to secure your budget. You need to do it on your own. And every way is unique. My way, I have the business experience before. I know what is equity, how to invest, what is return. If as a businessman I try to invest in the films, I will never do that. Because only 20% of entire production films returning money back. So the investor who have a chance to lose the investment completely in 80%, this is not investment. This is not. Why the movie still produced? Why the people still spending money on the films? Because of magic of the film. Sometimes film have a quality what is not just interest on the money, what is something bigger, something different. And this is a story for explain for the week. But every my project, I close the budget, I arrange finances, and we deliver the product. Biggest responsibility of producer is to deliver the product to the screen. And biggest challenge for him, this is how to not wreck the story by enforcing too much control over the creative parts. How to make them to be free and to fly inside of limited budget and limited time. So this is a challenge. As I advise into all young generation of filmmakers just to film and trying to make that products out. You will meet the people who will help you. You will meet your teacher, and that's how this industry works.
So what you're saying is that focus on telling stories more rather than the financial aspect?
Of course. Good story will help you with...
Automatically it will sell?
Will, not exactly, but sooner or later, yes. The good story all the time paving the way to the screen. You cannot hold the story if you not tell the story. This is a passion of storytellers to tell the story. And a good storyteller is a gem. Because if you listen to somebody who can mesmerize you, this was I'm fascinated by the greatest storyteller of in Iranian culture. For me, that was Firdausi and Rumi. But Firdausi, the Shahnameh, this is the biggest...
The Book of Kings.
Yeah, Book of the Shahs or Kings.
Yeah.
This is the biggest... I wanted to make just one metaphorical the equitation. From the point of view, the people who study the Shahnameh from the youth, and the civilization exists for the 5,000 years. The empire abroad, 10,000 kilometers away, who exists only less than 300 years, trying to teach them how to change the rules in their own country. This only can produce a laughing in response. This is how that Americans stand for trying to teach somebody democracy. Well, what kind of democracy we're talking? The United States is not a democracy. It's something else, but not a democracy. And they play in this staged play of Republicans and Democrats. It is one party, 300 families owning the big money. And they play in this staged play. They play in this very, very creative way with big money involved. But Who gave them a right to teach democracy in the entire world? No one. The last time when democracy was, I believe it was in Athens, in Greece. But as my wife reminded me, don't forget, women has no rights to vote in the ancient Greece, and the slaves as well don't have rights. So what is democracy we're talking about? This is a concept of beautiful, perfect world, when the real world is totally different.
You spoke about the Shahnameh. Has it inspired you to make any film production related to Persia, Iran?
I hope so. I can't talk in more details, but I hope so.
What challenges do you think filmmakers like you face when, producing and screening alternative media and film productions that may be not in line with Western mainstream narrative?
The biggest challenges is how to reach your audience, because you bend here, there's a lot of obstacles, but if you're creative and if you have a good story, you can penetrate the barriers. This is challenges what can be overcome. And every challenges, every suffering, making you better. So if you go through the obstacles, you making yourself stronger. So it was in the Ashoka king in India who said, "My enemies, this is my steps to my greatness." So without enemy, I probably will still reading books and dreaming, but my enemies make me big.
How much do you think the audience of alternative film and media productions is growing? In other words, how much of a shift are we witnessing in screen time towards non-Hollywood screen time?
I believe that's already we passed benchmark when independent audience bigger than studio audience. And the legacy media as well lose the battle to indie media.
Why do you think that is?
Why? Because people is tired of they don't want to hear the lie. And they tired of this, the stories of Avengers 20 times with a big budget about exactly same drama contract. I don't know who is my father. I tried to find him and I confronting the evil force in a fight fist in the very end. Come on, give me a break. That's Jim Cameron saying, criticizing the Disney and making second Avatar and the third Avatar and the fourth Avatar. So, why Hollywood so love to make remakes? That giving them some assurance that the balance sheet will be filled with money. Because it's worked before, it's gonna work now. They have a popular story like a Cinderella in the West. They make movie only in the United States, I counted once, like more than 50 times. More than 50 times. They make same story, different language. Because audiences grow, they forget, so they have kids, let's make them story again.
Other generations, yeah.
Actually, that's not bad, because good story need to be told by the new language. This is a subject of culture. But the way of doing remakes in a Hollywood business actually make me laugh, because they practically remaking all big films from abroad into the States for market, because they want to replicate. What if we do that and we can succeed? Let's do that. But the film business as we know it in the 90s, the golden age of contemporary film business, golden age of studio was in 20s of 20th century, golden age of films was in 90s, that's gone. Now the storytelling is different. That's mostly need 12 episodes and couple of seasons to tell the story. That I still believe in storytellers, because without storytellers, no one big model of artificial intelligence can tell the story so skillful as a director. And I believe why? Because the artificial intelligence emotionless and they have no body. We embodiment in our body. We have a perfect interface created by the God Almighty and give it to us to experience this world in our senses. And our senses is not only our vision or audio or taste. That's overall the feeling of world flowing through you. This is why I still believe that we are not endangered by artificial intelligence. But probably we're going to face a lot of challenges from emerging artificial conscience.
We know for sure how important the film industry is in how it educates the people and prepares them for the future. What would your message be to filmmakers out there who would want to be a filmmaker and produce the truth, commit themselves to talking and narrating the truth of things?
First of all, you will have a great chance to change people for better, to enlighten them, elevate them, teach them, and change them. I believe if I do movies and people walk into that black room, sit for 2 hours, and they walk away exactly same, I waste my time, I waste my budget, I achieve nothing. But if people change at least a little for better, I achieve it. This is an amazing feeling when you're doing something good for such a lot of people. So to be a storyteller, to have such a big audience, a big responsibility, but there's a big sense of achievement.
And that's something that AI cannot achieve?
No.
Well, at the end of every program, we have a segment where we request our dear guest to look into the camera opposite them and speak their mind about a subject that's very concerning to them, that they think needs to be told to the audience, to the world.
What's making me concerned that we are living through the time, very turmoil time, when we balancing on the edge of World War III, and we are already in the second act of this war. And we need to do everything to prevent that's unimaginable from happening. As a person who studied how to build most destructible weapon in the world, I know how dangerous even the mistakes in the computer system can lead us to unimaginable. And I know how fragile, how beautiful life is. So all of us need to do something to prevent that fragile world from being destroyed. This is my message.
Thank you, Igor.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.